Welcome to First and Goal, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. Get ready for the latest and hottest topics in the SML. Let's get started. Here's your host, Mad Bomber.
All right, SML, welcome back to First and Goal. This week we got a primetime, 19-time SML champ back on the show. Finn's made an appearance. QP looking like the sunny California day. And
That's guy in the back
Doink in the bottom right with his Ohio State sweatshirt, so that's going to get him a bonus 3 points.
I propose he loses 3 points for being late.
All right, 3 more points for Doink. All right. So first topic, we'll start with you, Finns. A lot of people talking about they're going to pick their division based on schedulers next year. So let's take a look at the divisions this season. What division is the worst for scheduling?
For me, it came down to 2, and one I'm going to leave because it's a little low-hanging fruit with the one owner I had a little bit of issue scheduling with. So I'm going to go with the NFC West. You got Field, who's got a really tough work schedule. You got Spooky, who great guy, but kind of tough to schedule. Tough, he tends to push back times a lot. And then you got NYT schedule coming up for the next 4 or 5 months. That's just brutal to schedule with for him because he's just working so much. And Gouda seems to kind of have a little bit of issue with game times as well from time to time. But yeah, so I went with NFC West.
All right, NFC West. So you'll be avoiding those 4, I guess, in team selection. How about you, Doink, with your 6 points already? What do you think?
Yeah, build on that. Well, for starters, I think there's a difference between good and bad schedulers, like how good people are communicating what their schedule is, and then there's someone like Field, for example, who Finn's just touched on, that no matter how good he is communicating wise, sometimes he has just real life work issues that get in the way. So with that kind of in mind, I'm going to go to the NFC East here. I think that's a group which most of them do a good job communicating, but I think just their real life schedules. I know DW travels a lot. Sometimes he's playing morning games, which can throw a lot of people off. Grams is living the Disney World life. Paulie goes to sleep by 8 o'clock unless it's free agency. And I know Dump's busy with work and whatever else he has going on out in Washington now. So I think that's a division of people whose schedules can be difficult to work with.
All right. Prime, what do you think?
Oh, I'm taking the low-hanging fruit here, and we're going NFC South. And I don't need to explain the Saints owner too much, I don't think. And then you've got my boy Doink Face with his 20-minute windows of availability. And Faz is decent, but he even has a night shift schedule, or he's not free all the time. And Pastor Dan, I think he's open, but 3 of 4, and I think arguably maybe the worst scheduler in the league in future.
All right, and QP, if we can hear you talking over the plane in the background.
Yeah, I was actually going to go with the NFC South as well, just based off of maybe it's a myth, maybe it's not, but Doink's 20-minute window where he does have these games where he's playing them and he quickly has to go right after, or if you're slightly late, maybe 5 to 6 minutes late, he says, "Hey, we got to start this soon or I can't play this game." So I won't say anything other than that. Who's the Saints? Future. Is Future back? Well, his scheduling, he was hard to get a hold of. I played in the same division with him in the NFC North, and it was hard. Luckily that he usually had the "Can you play now?" At times when I was off of work, because it was usually later in the evening, and that worked out for me. But I'd like to retract on the first question when you said people are going to go off of schedules. I disagree with that because the AFC North did not fill up for a very long time, and I would like to think that we have some pretty good schedulers in there to start the AFC North. So we'll see. I'm going to hold everybody true to that if we're going to all go to the based off scheduling next Madden. But I'm going to go NFC South.
Okay. All right. So Doink, we'll start with you for topic 2, and I helped him out a little bit here. But is there any way Meats can get into the playoffs after missing, it looks like 3 games due to a cruise, but he may only lose 2 of them?
So yeah, obviously you win in that CPU game there goes a long way for him. Let's look. He's sitting there at 6-3. if he drops the next two, he's 6-5. He still has a shot at a wild card spot, especially with, Monty having a down year this year. Rice still, the whole primer posse just scrambling. AFC East is going to AFC East, and that pretty much just leaves Meats is kind of just sitting there. If he can just hold on to his spot and where he is, even with losing those two spots, he still might be in a wild card spot when he comes back after losing those 2 games. I think he will be absolutely fine.
All right, Prime, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's fine because you have to look at who he's going to go against, and it's really between him. It's going to be between Mike and No Bean, and at the end of the day, Mike's Mike, and No Bean. I know he still plays mean, and he kind of has a tough schedule coming up, and he can't seem to win the big one as of late. So I think Meats kind of by default is going to find a way to make the playoffs. And another thing about Meats, he's playing the best out of all those guys. Yep. Before he went on auto, I mean, Meats has been playing good football really since the playoffs. Yep. So hats off to him. I think he's going to make the playoffs. He'll probably get bounced early, but he's going to make it.
Yeah, he definitely is playing a lot better. QP, what do you think?
I think he is going to make the playoffs as well, and I kind of want him to make the playoffs because he did play pretty well based off last year. And like Prime said, just to kind of reiterate that, he has been playing pretty well. He played me really good. I didn't see the explosive offense that he keeps raving about, but he held me in check defensively. And he's 6-3, like you guys said. He's 6-3. He's not competing with the toughest guys right now. Monty is on a little bit of a skid, which is unusual. He's been pretty consistent since he's.
All right, moving on to Fins.
I'm gonna say no. He's not gonna make the playoffs. I'm gonna say, he was playing really well, really good football before he left, but this break I think is gonna hurt his flow. And I expect either one of Monty or RD to make a run. I know RD struggled, but I'm with Mike in the camp that RD's been a really good player for a really long time. He's gonna figure it out. And like QP touched on before he dropped off there, Monty's been consistent. He's been really good. I think Meats is going to have a chance to make it, but his last 3 games are he plays Matt, D-Muse, and then Foz the last 3 games. And I think he's going to have a chance. He has to win one of those 3 games like Mike did when I first joined the cycle. He's going to lose all 3, and he's going to reclaim the folding chair moniker.
Ooh, okay.
Wow.
It's a bold statement there. And quick turnaround after he just, I think, maybe have lost it. He might get it right back. So we'll move on to topic 3, Prime. We'll start with you. Some of the trades that we've seen, and since I've been in the SML, and then we continue to see them. Should the trade committee maybe be a little more critical of trades? Maybe we let a little too much go through. We try to protect the teams, but maybe we need to protect some of the owners from themselves. What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of guys are pressing for looser trade rules all the time, and we actually just loosened up some of the trade rules. So I do think that we should be a little more critical of trades, but it's such a fine line to toe because you want people to run their teams, and you don't want to be David Stern and veto. You don't want to veto the freaking Chris Paul trade type of deal. I mean, teams make mistakes all the time. I mean, you've seen DeAndre Hopkins get traded to the Cardinals for pennies, and I mean it happens in real life, and I think it's good to replicate that to a certain extent, but. I mean, the Figs of the world, we should probably try to protect them a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Some of the stuff he does gets a little crazy, but what do you think, Vince? Since we'll have to skip QP.
I'm going to say no. I think we have. I think the SML does a really good job with trades. The trade committee, kind of. I haven't seen any really egregious trades get vetoed since I've been here. We're going to have guys, covet certain abilities or traits, and they're going to send players that most of us wouldn't trade to covet obviously I'm talking about Fig. But I mean, we also, like Prime said, we also need to be able to provide freedom enough for people to build teams the way they want to build their teams. And I think, short of someone absolutely gutting a team, right? Like we have those rules where you can't trade those young X Factor players for draft picks, that kind of stuff. So, if we do end up losing an owner, that team is just completely undesirable. I think overall things are really good here. I don't think we really need to do much.
Okay. And Doink, what do you think about the trade rules?
I've been pretty outspoken in chat about loosening trade rules up and whatnot. And I think the steps we made as a league that Prime decided to go with letting, expiring deals of, I forget what the exact numbers were for people over 28 or whatever, under certain overalls. I think that was a good job of basically making SML more realistic, more sim, so to speak. And just for, you have instances like, the Packers with the Rodgers-Adams thing, not being able to move any of them, etc. I think that's been great, just opening that up a little bit to allow for that to happen. And I definitely don't think we should be more restrictive on trades, because I think in general, like some people are going to do things we think are stupid, but if that's what they want and that's how they have fun, if Fig wants to throw the ball to Quez Watkins, let him do it. But obviously, from a overarching league standpoint, I do understand the need to make sure that you're not gutting a team. That's where the kind of oversight needs to come in. I think SML generally does a very, very good job of that. So I think we're in that sweet spot.
I do want to throw out a key rule that might save some guys from completely destroying their teams every offseason is a 3 trade limit. If Fig could make 8 trades in an offseason, that could be bad. That could be really bad. But 3 trades, I think we allow. I mean, you can only do so much, and if you kind of get screwed in one trade, it's really not going to set you back that far, especially with our rules. So I think even though sometimes I would think about having 4 trades allowed, I think 3 is a good number for maybe to protect some guys as well.
You did sample that with the primer guys with the beginning of I think that was post blip.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to say, where I think that was really nice, because especially right when we get our teams, there's some teams, you look at, the upcoming Bears roster, for example, that team has so many holes, or some of the other teams that are rebuilding with a handful of older people, where 3 trades can be really restrictive, especially if you have to, move one guy for a pick and then move that pick for something to someone else. That takes up 2/3 of your trade. So especially early on, I think more trades could be beneficial, could also obviously be destructive in the wrong hands. That's the give and take.
Absolutely destructive, and then complaining about the team being awful. Speaking of awful, let's move on to topic 4. And topic 4 is this version of QB the biggest collapse you've ever seen, and how is this even possible? I mean, he's gone from what he's made sure to tell everybody in chat that he's been 19-0 before, and he's won 3 Simbardis, and now he's talking about maybe I'll be able to beat KJ. Is this the biggest collapse ever, Fins?
It's hard for me to say, because this is the only version of QB I've ever known. Like, I've heard the tall tales about him. I've seen that he's won. But, I mean, if he was as good as he says he was, then I guess it would have to be the biggest collapse that I've ever seen. That being said, I know he got handed just a garbage dump of a team, right? Like, there's, a decent QB, a decent wide receiver, a good offensive lineman, and a good safety. And that's about it, right? So it's going to be really hard to see, like, once he's been able to kind of make this team a little bit of his own, but there's not a lot of time left. This game is a lot different than even 21, and like it took players like me who haven't taken any time off a long time to adjust to it. So I can't imagine what someone like him who he just got back in Primer like a couple months ago, Prime.
Yeah, 2-3 weeks ago.
Right. So it's going to take him a while to kind of catch back up. We're seeing it with RD as well. But yeah, like it's been a monumental collapse.
All right. Doink, what do you think?
So yeah, I'm in the same boat as Fins in the sense that I didn't get to see this, mythical multi-championship QB. All I've seen is a guy who even he could not have anticipated with his anticipation skills how bad he was going to be coming back in. I mean, this is a guy, he's throwing directly at users. I watched his game against the Titans, and he was throwing balls. I mean, Tanner Muse covered one guy, didn't come off him. He was just throwing balls right at him and then getting defensive about it in chat. I'm sure if he was as good as he was beforehand, sounds like he had a good team built to his liking, whatever. I don't see how anyone goes from a Super Bowl winner to just, god-awful at the game. I think something must have happened between then and now. I'm not sure. And I disagree with you, Fins. I think that Texans roster, it's obviously one of the worst ones in the game. But Deshaun Watson, Mecole Hardman, you got Justin Reed on the defense, but Watson and Hardman alone, we've seen guys are fallen co-host or person on the show right now, QP, he did a lot more with a lot less in those Detroit Lions. So I think
but he was in the flow, right? Like he got that team from the ground up and was able to build it. Like that Texans team is way worse than the Lions team I took over when I came in.
It's not a lot worse. It's honestly significantly better than that Lions team Q started with, though. Even with
no. I'm talking about when I joined. This is when I got called up before you.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah, but I don't know. I can't call it a collapse without having seen what he was at beforehand. But I have not been impressed with what I've seen so far.
I just want to point out, though, that, everybody's talking about that roster. ZZ won games. So it's not impossible to win games with that roster. Maybe if QB can get to ZZ's level, he'll be able to do that. But Prime, what do you think?
Money.
Yeah, it's bad. And it's interesting. I was thinking about this earlier today, actually. When QB joined the SML, he was a Patriots, and he was And then right at the end, he got really good. Conk accused him of using ebooks, by the way. Maybe Conk was onto something. And then QB won like 2 Sombardis. And then Madden 21 comes, and he wins 1 Sombardi with the Chargers. And then he started playing a little funky, a little again. And NYT blows him out. And then he leaves, like literally, I think, the next day. So it's kind of weird. He had like a 3 or 4 season stretch where he was like really good, and he's not. The team's not that great. It's below average, but if you're a good player, you're not going to lose by a combined like 138 to 14. I mean, it's that bad. I mean, the guy's got like a total of 28 points and has let up like an average of 40 points every game. It is a colossal collapse, and I think it's the worst in SML history. I really do. I've never seen somebody join after taking a few months off. I mean, the game is not that different. It's a little different, but it's not that different. And it's almost like he's forgot how to play the game completely. And I've never seen something like that before. With just some of the things he's saying, how it plays like a video game. It's always played like a video game. I mean, this game's been the same crap for the last 15 years. That's why people are pissed off about it. Yep. I just... And like Doink said, he's throwing it right at guys. I mean, your eyes aren't deceiving you. I mean, there's guys there, and you're clicking the button. I don't get it, really. It's just bad.
So does that mean, like, let's take it here then. Do we think he's tanking? Like, do we think he's doing this on purpose? I know he says he's not, but is he?
I think he's too prideful. I think this is eating at his soul, maybe.
I don't see any reason to tank this late in the cycle.
Yeah, exactly. There's 2 drafts left. I mean,
true. But I mean, if he was really that good for those 3 seasons, and then like you say, Prime, like the game isn't that different. Like
logical. I think that QB is a very over analytical guy, and I think maybe he's overthinking things way too much. I mean, I seen him. I skipped through his stream after my game against him just to see what he had to say, and he was like saying, "Oh, Prime's running this defense and he's making this shift," and he's like, "Oh, Prime's running cover 2 here and I was running cover 3," and he's like, "Prime was running man here and I was running freaking zone," and it's like, "Oh, Prime loves running this outside levels concept and I was running a post route and like a wheel route or something." Like it wasn't anyway. It's things like that. What do you have to say, Doink?
Maybe guys got to spend more time in primer until they get back on their feet before they jump the line and come back up then.
Yeah, we need some rehab system or something. This is bad.
Some Madden rehab. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode, and that's going to leave Prime in the lead with 112 points. So, Prime, these 30 seconds are all yours.
Thank you. I won't take all 30 seconds, maybe 19 seconds in honor of my 19 Sombardis. But I do want to say, guys, if you haven't heard already, SML Insanity coming up. Get them clips in, send them in. And QB, if you watch this far, hey, I hope you turn around. But I'm going to blow you out by at least 30 points next time we play, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, looking forward to that 30-point blowout. And I'm sure QP would love to say his thanks and his 35 points that he had before he disconnected. But to the 3 guys that made it all the way to the end, thanks for being on. And until next week, this has been First and Goal.
Thanks for listening to First and Goal. Be sure to check out Mad Bomber TV on Twitch and YouTube for the latest from the SML. And we'll see you next time on First and Goal.